Hello everyone, welcome along to the Redmen Originals podcast. I'm Paul Machin, Chris Page, Chloe Boxham and Dan Clubb are here with me. Chloe is just having some major FOMO with all the people in Turkey at the moment.
Yeah, just the fact that they're in the sun more than anything. I've seen people in a pool and they're all inclusive. I'm living life wrong.
I saw Lizzie Doyle say
That's
normalise all-inclusive for European aways, which you can totally do in Turkey. No problem whatsoever.
Definitely. I hadn't factored that in when I was thinking more about the be arsed to deal with Galatasaray fans and not I could be sat on a sun lounger in preparation for the match. Never mind. Plenty to discuss on the podcast this week. Obviously Liverpool have lost and won since we last saw you guys here, so we'll go through both of those and we'll have a little look ahead to the week as well. Obviously,
do we have to go through both of them?
Not in detail.
A few.
Yeah.
Because I've done enough on that first
I won't
one.
lie, they both felt like midweek games.
Well, they were.
No, yeah, but one was literally Friday night, but to me, it could have been Wednesday. Liverpool could have played Tuesday and Wednesday. It feels the same.
That first one feels an absolute age ago now, though. It feels like a different time, different lifetime. Anyway, yeah, we more for the overall context of it than actually to go through it bit by bit, which you're right, we have done too much of in the last week. And then, in part two, we're going to be looking ahead to Galatasaray and ahead even further to Tottenham Hotspur at the weekend. Before I do, just want to remind everyone, if you haven't checked it out already, obviously have a little look at our app. It's available on the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. And we've got an exclusive interview with Jamie Carragher up there right now, when I set him the challenge of he's Liverpool's director of football this summer. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Really, really good stuff. What's that?
Rip it up and start again.
Yeah, why not? I thought you were doing like the...
No.
I thought you did the salad bow.
I've been known to.
I felt like I was inside a GIF for a minute.
We'll play us a little bit from that interview a little bit later on in the show. But anyway, yes. Dan Clubb, what a mad old week that was for Liverpool. It really encapsulated the entire season of the lows and highs and everything in between. Tuesday was hair tear and frustration. Wednesday and the other fixtures offered us a bit of a reprieve, and then Friday Liverpool just went and did the job that they should have done on Tuesday as well.
Yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell, isn't it? And as you say, it's kind of Liverpool's season in a nutshell in many senses as well. 1 minute you don't quite know what you're watching and you're struggling to sort of recognise and identify this Liverpool team, and I guess sort of get on board with it as well in many senses. That first half in particular, 4 halves of football ago now or whatever it was, Molineux first time around was particularly poor, really, really sluggish, just an absolute non-event for a football game. And obviously it went up in terms of action a little bit in the second half, but not to the betterment of Liverpool, of course. And I think obviously Friday's performance had a little bit more about it, generally speaking, a bit more zip, a little bit more urgency and tempo. And obviously that was then capped off with Andy Robertson rolling back the ears a little bit and obviously turning the game on its head from a scoreline perspective. So, yeah, it's been a difficult and a strange few days on the pitch for the Reds. Obviously, it's been quite busy off it as well. So, as you say, it kind of just epitomises what we are, I think. And it's just nice that whilst the top 4/5 race remains a possibility, we live to fight another day, and that in particular because of the result, as you mentioned, 24 hours later, doesn't really excite me much. It's kind of a bit meh, but at least the Silverware, the cup side of things continues to rumble on, because without that, I'd really struggle for motivation for this job, to be honest. So I'm absolutely delighted that we carry on regardless in that.
Yeah, I think it's important, isn't it, Chloe? Because look, people are, and rightly or wrongly, are tying it in with the manager's job and all that kind of stuff, but really just from being a fan, Dan's right, keeping going in the FA Cup adds something. It really, really does. It gives you something to do. It gives you something to get excited about. It gives you another opportunity for big memories. And then, you're one game away from not proper Wembley, semi-final Wembley, but regardless, you can start to envisage what it might look like if we win it once we get through, if we get through the next round.
Yeah, it's one of them where I think we said it a couple of weeks ago, the worst thing that Liverpool could do is to go out to the cup competitions and then you're left fighting for top 5 and it's all just very dull. You've got nothing to look forward to. It's not like, you know, you get top 5, yeah, you get Champions League next season, but there's no trophy at the end of it, or like a day that you get to signify that moment for, where obviously in the FA Cup and the Champions League, you get to enjoy those days that you get to the final, but also if Liverpool were to win the Champions League this year, you get a potential parade as well on top of it. You don't get that for getting top 5. So yeah, it was really important, and look, a lot of people were saying that why didn't we just, I'd rather we played that way on the Tuesday night, because Champions League footy is more important, and I totally get that. But at the same time, between now and the end of the season, all of those teams who are in the race for the final spots of top 4, they will all drop points, because we are the ones who've not been consistent enough to challenge. So it's one of them where I'd rather be alive in the cups and having hope, and hoping that Liverpool, I'd say find consistency, but that's not going to happen because we're inconsistent, and that's why we are where we are. But hopefully we can be the better of the teams who are inconsistent to stay in the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the midweek games are so important, Chris, because it allows that reframing, because I think that I saw Dan shaking his head when Chloe was talking about that idea of almost like the would you rather, of like what some people saying, I'd rather have us won in the league and then lost in the cup. The beauty of those results meant that, okay, it wasn't what we would have chosen, but we live to fight another day in the Premier League. We can kick that can down the line a week or so. Being able to keep going in the cup right now for overall momentum and just positive feelings actually is probably a little bit more significant.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I sat here last week and I would rather have won the Premier League game, if I'm being honest, but I think the midweek results, other than ours, do make sure that it's a bit more palatable. The fact that we're all just a little bit shit, Villa, Chelsea, Manchester United, once again, it reaffirms that, the midweek results, doesn't it? So yeah, it is obviously brilliant to look forward to a bit of a cup run. Would I also consider the fact that going out the FA Cup might increase our chances in another cup competition? Yeah, I do, to be honest with you. I don't think we've got the squad to be able to compete for the Champions League and the FA Cup. But then, flip side of that again is I don't think we're really good enough to win the Champions League. So the only one we've probably got an actual hope of winning for me is the FA Cup. So keeps that dream alive, doesn't
probably
it?
Going to have to beat all the same teams to do it, don't
it is, and that's the problem, really, isn't it? You know, the fact that at least Manchester United aren't in the FA Cup as well. There's another one, but all the rest of them are there, aren't they? The ones that we're sort of challenging with for the top 3, I'm going to say now, because it has kind of opened up. It's not just top 5 anymore for me. It is, you know, we're going for 3rd place in the league. But the biggest thing this week for me is the fact that both sides made changes on the Friday night, but the fact that we just played so much better, and it gives me a little bit more confidence again in the fact that the manager's able to change things up slightly and actually us put a better performance down a couple of days later, because that's one thing that you need, isn't it? When you take a heartbreaking loss like we did against Wolves, you need to know that the manager's got something about him that can change it the next time around.
Yeah, it was weird because the logic is really tough to follow sometimes with this, Dan. That's why the season's so mad, is that we played a much weakened team, but a weaker side. That Tuesday was the best 11 Liverpool had available to them, and that had changed a little bit because of the return of Frimpong and Wirtz by the Friday, but obviously not fit enough to start. So by all accounts, we had, we'd rotated with the squad options, but Chris is right, the performance level went up, and that was really sort of encouraging for me, and I think we've seen that a couple of times. I think the FA Cup's actually been a good example of that. To be honest, the manager has done things that I don't think he would do in the Premier League, but it's allowed him a bit of freedom to make those changes. And I thought it all paid off. I thought Gomez at the back played really well. We'll talk about Rio and Gamora in a second in detail because he deserves it, because I thought he was fantastic. Even Cody Gakpo, I thought he led the line really well as well, without setting the world alight, but I thought he did a good job. So yeah, it was definitely a nice little sort of palate cleanser. So yeah, that's an encouraging thing, if nothing else. And then let's circle back to Rio and Gamora. Just an absolute gem of a footballer. It would have been easy for any young player to come into that game and maybe not perform to that level, even with the promise that we've seen from him so far. Yeah. But I thought the best thing about him was how he just he just showcased his talent again and again and again. He didn't run out of ideas. They didn't get a grip on him. It was as good a game of football as you could likely to see from a lad of his age.
Yeah, he was absolutely sensational, wasn't he? And there's been so much hype, fanfare, clamour around him. And, you know, there's been somewhat anarchy in the fan base every time he hasn't been included in the start 11, it feels like. And I think it would have been quite easy for him to get given the opportunity and then maybe not take it with both hands, but it was the opposite. I thought he was absolutely excellent. And it was quite telling, I thought, just how much of our threat, how much of our football, generally speaking, came down that side. It felt like down the years we've seen us often shift to the right to get Mo Salah involved. It was literally the opposite. It was how often can we get the ball, and to give the midfield credit and those around him, they got it to him quickly more often than not, so we could isolate his man one-on-one. But when he does that, he is such a problem for defenders. Like, obviously you could speak in detail about the skills, and obviously he's got fancy footwork, but he is like, he makes things happen. Like, he's just, and I saw Steve obviously in the post-match stuff saying he does things with purpose, and that's the side of his game that's developed more than anything for me, because it kind of was skills for skills' sake to begin with when I first saw him, and he knew he had the beating of his man so comfortably sometimes he'd almost do it and then come back and do it again just because he could. But now he does it.
We all knew that lad at school.
Exactly, yeah. He was just taking the piss essentially. Yeah. But now he does it, and his end product, and it's not always a goal, it's not always something tangible, but he'll give it to a man in a better position than him, or he'll commit his defender and deliver the ball, and he goes both ways obviously, but it's the amount of times he takes defenders inside the box.
He wins a lot of corners as well.
He does, and once you've took your man inside the box, like, he's got a serious decision to make at that point. So yeah, it was a mesmerising display, and I know that sounds like a really sort of over the top term, but it was. And
I'm here for it then.
Yeah, no, just for somebody of that age, and again with all the noise around it, to take on the responsibility of being the main guy in a team at 17, it was just remarkable.
Yeah, totally. And it's, again, Chris, we've seen over the years loads of these young players come in and they can be a bit of a one-trick pony or whatever. But the thing is, the skill set that he's got, it's unteachable. You know, you've either got that or you've not. And the thing is, the end product isn't really there. You know, he's certainly more of a threat than I think he was when he was initially, you know, kind of coming in consistently, because we got to see him over a larger chunk of a football match for the start, as opposed to like 10-minute cameos at the end. So that was a very good thing. But again, we know he's got a bit of that. We've seen some of his finishes already. The disallowed one the other week being a prime example of that, and obviously Newcastle. But it's that fact that you can coach that. That'll come. He'll bulk up. He'll become more physical. He'll be able to bounce defenders a little bit more. But actually, those quick feet are sensational. There's something else.
The defenders don't have a clue what he's going to do, and I think sometimes you can talk about players and you're like, well, they don't really have a clue, but I get the impression that Rio knows exactly what he wants to do, and I get the impression that he's sort of thinking about, well, what did I do last time? Well, I went outside, so I'll go inside this time. And, you know, it's those little things at 17 years old where you think there's a real maturity to how he dribbles and how he goes about dissecting his man over the course of near 70 minutes in this game.
Well, you can tackle yourself sometimes when you're that fast and you're a bit wild, can't you? God knows we've all fallen over our legs sometimes.
My favourite one was the tree in Colby's Park. Absolute belter of a fall over by me, which nobody saw, thankfully. But no, like, Rio is just... Listen, you can talk about Gakpo all you want. The biggest thing from that performance is the difference between him and the right wing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I know a lot of people will be talking about what the difference was to Tuesday with Gakpo. Mate, compare him to the right-hand side. Like, you got Mo Salah over there who can barely go past the man right now, and you've got a 17-year-old Rio Ngamoa who is just flying by his man for fun. So it looks bad on both Gakpo and Mo at the moment for him, and, you know, hopefully he is able to, you know, go a little bit longer, play more games in quick succession, and just really sort of get a feel for how he's going to be part of this side over the next 18 months.
It reminds me a bit of, like, there was a time before Ronaldinho skills in football, and then he invented that. They used it on the nightcap, you know, like the outside, the elastico, the flicker flacker, as we called it in our generation. And I remember coming back after years out to five-a-side and some lad doing it against me, and it was like witchcraft. I had no idea what had happened or how I'd gone from being standing my man up to him being completely gone. But you get that Rio just looks like the next thing, Chloe. He's so different to anything else that we've got. And that Chris is dead right, because again, it's quite obvious to talk about the differences between him and Gakpo. but it was night and day on the opposite flanks.
The maddest thing about it was the first 15 minutes, I thought, okay, you know what, we'll keep feeding them because they're not expecting Rio to, show up in this kind of game. From a Wolves perspective, they're probably thinking, young lad, yeah, we know he's got skills, but we're senior footballers, we should be able to deal with that. And
good luck with that.
You could tell after 20 minutes they were doubling up.
Yeah.
Like every man who was supposed to be, tracking Gakpo or Mo, it was every man on this side of the pitch. And he took the mick a couple of times and got past him, started winning corners, things like that. And then you saw the defenders asking for help on that right-hand side, and they were doubling up on him.
Yeah. Did you see the white flag?
Yeah,
they were waving.
yeah, saw it a couple of times. But that's how you could tell. Wow, like they've underestimated them here, and actually, out of everybody on this pitch, it's all coming through Rio, and that was the thing. You hardly saw anything, especially in that first half, of Mo and Gakpo. And at times, Gakpo kept coming over to Rio to try and get involved in the play. And Rio was like, no lad, get off me toes. Andy Robertson's going to feed me the ball and I'm going to do what I want to do with this. And like he's mentioned there, he had a bit of everything. He's got the pace that I think we're also lacking. He's got a little bit more pace than the other two at the moment. But it was the way that, he wasn't scared to have a shot. He makes the keeper make a good save. He'll go on the outside, he'll win you some corners, or he'll cut back in and he'll try and set up, the likes of Ryan Gravenberch or someone on the edge of the box. And I just thought it was incredible, and it was night and day, like you said, between him and obviously Mo and Gakpo. And in the second half, yeah, Mo gets the goal, but Andy Robbo, we talk about seeing the best of him as well, but it's because Rio gives you the space. Rio will go and beat a man and then put a ball on you and you can go and do it. He'll feed you if you run in behind, and he's cut inside and took someone away from you. And it was just incredible to see. And I was devastated when he was taken off. He could have scored in that second half. I think he came really close where he takes about 3 lads on and just puts it past the post. Yeah. But I was devastated when he went off. I was like, but then I was like, wait there, does this mean he gets a bigger chance in the Champions League here? Because the fact that he's came off before Mo and before Gakpo, I was sat there going, I like it that.
We're still just handling him up.
Yeah.
We will definitely have we'll pick an 11 for Galatasaray in part 2, but Dan, I think it's worthwhile picking up in the conversation because inevitably everyone's asking that question now. Yeah. Everyone's talking about him because Gakpo has become the least trendy footballer on the Liverpool's books since the days of Sean Dundee somehow. I don't know how that's happened. I think it's exaggerated wildly, but it's hard not to get excited. It's a shame because there's shade being thrown on Gakpo, but there shouldn't really be. We should just be dead excited for Rio. But the manager's got a big decision because you can see how well he did there. But he's also, I think a manager under pressure might be tempted to just launch him in constantly now. But that is not how Liverpool do things. So it will be fascinating to see how he's managed in the coming weeks.
I think for me, whilst, based on the evidence of everything we've seen of Rio Gamoa so far, and I think in particular Friday night, because I feel like that was a real significant step in his development to becoming fair game when it comes to Liverpool first team selection. I think one of the more pleasing elements of his game, we mentioned a lot of it actually, but I think in terms of his readiness for more exposure, more involvement, was the fact he stood up to the physical test. Because I think a couple of times Wolves defenders pretty much had enough of what he was showing in terms of taking the mick out of him on the pitch, on the floor. So they decided to give him a bit physically. There's one in particular sort of barges into him and he just gets up and sort of shrugs it off and goes again. So there's definitely pros and cons still to Rio Gamoa.
And he's winning the ball back in some of those situations
in those duels
as well.
I think he won 3 or 4 ground duels as well, which speaks to his physicality and the fact that he is willing to do that side of the game. And that's been one area I've been a little bit unsure of when it comes to Rio. But as I say, I still think whilst there's major excitement around him, and I think Chloe's right, the fact he does come off relatively early in the game might speak to heavier involvement tomorrow night out in Istanbul. I think they'll still just manage him accordingly. I think his minutes will be very, very sort of micromanaged.
See, I agree in terms of I don't expect Rio to start this game of football in Turkey. However, I think after that display, look, he's done it against, no offence, but lower teams and not as physical or Premier League like Wolves are. I just think now those 10 minutes that he seemingly gets, I think that turns to 25 and 30.
Oh, there's 30
I don't
minutes.
think he's lobbed on when Liverpool are rushing for a goal and it's just put every attacker out there. I think that will mean that we trust him.
There's a grown up performance there. I think because previously he has just kind of been a bit of a wild card. He adds a new dimension to everything. On you go. But I think that makes him a whole different proposition. What we've seen on Friday night. But it's still, again, because of his age, because of what's gone previously in terms of
and
youngsters,
stress injuries and stuff.
actually, the fact that it's Istanbul, Galatasaray, that atmosphere, they will have that conversation. And they will be wary of just throwing him into that.
And that's what I mean by we know how Liverpool are. Not that Liverpool don't play young players, they do. Clearly, and we've clearly ruined several young players by playing them too much. But you hope. What I mean is, they do things for 2-3 seasons as opposed to this game and the next game. But that is hard, Chris, because we're having to temper our expectations when we feel like we've got an absolute star. We also want to see more of him play.
Yeah, absolutely, you do. And I think, to be fair, we saw 25 minutes of him on Tuesday night as well. So that conversation might have already started earlier than we probably thought before this game in and of itself. But, he's still played less minutes. I can see on your screen, still played less minutes than Chiesa and Isak. Now, if you were to ask me who's going to play more between now and the end of the season, I think that flips. Yes. I think Rio Ngamoa plays much more than Federico Chiesa. Now, for the first half of the season, that wasn't the case. So there is already some movement, isn't there? And, I think with Gakpo playing, was it 85, 86 minutes Friday night? Maybe it's another 25, 30 for Rio in Galatasaray, something like that. So he's just much more of a viable option from earlier on in the game now, if nothing else.
Yeah, and also I think the other thing we've got to think about is the fact that game state's also a big thing, because when Rio is on the pitch, I expect him to take his man on 9 times out of 10, which means as a youngster, and especially, if you were in Galatasaray, you're probably going to win half of those, and you might be really dangerous from half of them, but the other half you've gave the ball away. And that's just natural as a young kid with those intentions. You should expect to lose the ball more, because he's going to stand this lad up and try and go past him time and time and time again.
He's going to lose the ball less than Mo, though, mate.
Exactly. Well, that's a good point,
I looked at the stats last week on the deep dive for Mo, right? Last season, which I don't think was a particularly great season from a dribbling standpoint with Mo, he was winning 44% of his dribbles. This season, that's halved. It's 22% of his dribbles. Basically 1 in 5, he's getting past his man. Rio's well above that already, you know what I mean? So there is a risk reward to having a dribbler on your side, but the risk if you go past your man and you're in the penalty area and stuff like that is so high, because his positioning is just on the edge of the penalty area. Mo's even a little bit wider, where he's losing it on the wing. It's more dangerous for you if he loses the ball. Rio loses it in the penalty area. You expect the team should be able to get across and cover it, and they know that that's the case. When you do play with dribbly wingers, you have to set up such that you've got that little bit of a safety net behind them, because you're asking them to do something that, apart from sticking the ball in the back of the net, is the hardest thing to do in football, and that's create space in the penalty area and have an impact on it.
Yeah, definitely. Very, very exciting, and hopefully we get to see more of him. And I agree with everyone there. I think it looks to me like he's worked his way above Chiesa in the pecking order.
Oh, by far.
Well, because he's, again, different.
Yeah.
And the question now, we'll come on to Gakpo next, but
it's how long does it take to reel Gakpo in?
Yeah.
And whether
I think
that's
he's
even
already
viable
there
for him this season in terms of the manager's point of view.
Exactly, because this is the thing. I said it during the watch on Friday. I think he kind of needed a goal and an assist to really put a full stop or an exclamation point on the performance, because I still think the manager will still look at what Cody Gakpo brings as an all-round thing and probably go, it's still a safer pair of hands to go with that. But, if Gakpo's not scoring and assisting, well, Rio's not scoring and assisting, but my God, he's doing something, isn't he? He's really offering something very, very clear cut that Gakpo isn't. And Gakpo maybe exists within like the deeper numbers underneath what he does, and there's certainly something to having another 6'3" player on the pitch. But yeah, more decisions for the manager to make.
It's a floor ceiling thing, isn't it, Chloe? Because right now I think Rio's floor, if you were to say in Premier League games, is lower, but also his ceiling's higher. If he can drag that floor up, then everything just nudges into his favour.
100%. And the other thing I think about and have to factor in when I think of this is that I know Ekitike can't play 90, and we're going to need him for every single game for the rest of the season, which therefore means, does Gakpo have to take some of that centre-forward role if Chiesa's not being picked? So if Chiesa isn't your fourth, fifth choice, and it is Rio and Gamoa, then what you're doing is you're putting Gakpo in the middle then, taking off Ekitike when he can't play 90, and then you give him Rio the minutes there. So that's the other way in which I think about him being closer to Gakpo, is the fact that Gakpo's just also utilised in other positions.
Yeah, true.
And Rio, we keep speaking about Salah. Well, I saw what Rio was like in Salah's position against Forest, and look, it's not his natural position, but in games where you need it, and you know, the final 15 minutes, which he has been used when Liverpool have been under pressure, you know, him also being on that right hand side might be a thing as well. So I think he's reeling those players in by them having to be spread across the front three, and the fact that, like you said, the ceiling's just so high for me that he could play in those positions, because Gakpo has to transition to become a striker sometimes when Ekitike's not fit enough.
I just think that's really interesting. It actually transitions really nicely into the next point. I thought Gakpo did well. I particularly the hand he has in the first two goals, you know, in terms of dragging us up the pitch.
Dropping him for that first goal, he plays the ball through to Salah, doesn't he? And then obviously it comes out eventually to John Arne Rees on the edge of the and he smashes it away. I mean, you said rolling back the years before, and I was thinking about 2007, like, you know, when we had a left back that could do that. Brilliant. But Gakpo's play in that was absolutely superb, and that's what you want, isn't it? And Ekitike can do that as well, but there was a few times during that game where I looked at Cody Gakpo and he picked the ball up in the centre and he's driving on it. I thought, this suits your skill set here. Like, it does really sort of work, doesn't it? But, you know, obviously he doesn't manage to get on the end of anything himself. But, a totally okay performance from Gakpo in the number 9.
Yeah, 100%. And that's all you're looking for when you're rotating. And no one's here saying Cody Gakpo's better than Ekitike. Look, we own Alexander Isak. Will hopefully be back in the coming weeks, month or so. So I don't see a long-term future.
It does take a while to get fit, though, we've learned. By the time Gravenberg's contract's finished, Isak might be up to speed.
Free transfer. But to go back to Coach, but in terms of balancing what you've got available to you, I'd be fine. I've always thought Gakpo was good at that. Maybe more in those games when it does open up a bit more. So you're not looking for him to be like a genius in tiny spaces inside the box when he's surrounded by lads, which Ekitike is very, very good at. Yeah. But that thing of when he was doing that under Jurgen Klopp, that thing where you drop deep, back into your man, and then go from him and get the team up the pitch. I thought it was when you consider the last time we saw the alternative was Brighton and Chiesa started up front, and it was just that was like as okay comes. Did nothing anyone can remember him doing, but he didn't stink the gaff out. He held down a spot reasonably well, and other lads flourished around him. Gakpo was better than that, so yeah, it stands us in reasonable stead. Just lastly, Dan, on the Gamoa thing, he is the third youngest player to play in the Premier League this season. We've chatted about this before, but the overriding concern has to be for his long-term future. And as fans, we care not for that, because we don't need to be the ones looking down the line at all these icebergs looming for his hamstrings and his groin and his, all that kind of stuff. But we've seen a lot of players lose a lot of time to injury. Yeah. Stefan Bajcetic is one. We're still sat here, still waiting. 2 years on from him bursting onto the scene. We never know. We don't know now whether he's going to come back the same level player. Kate Gordon went through a very similar thing. Ryan Brewster before it. There are other examples of players who've started and gone on. Raheem Sterling came in at 17 and was had a pretty good career up until the last probably year or so. So yeah, it is a fact that we don't like hearing the softly, gently, approach, but that is the reality of it. Yeah,
and it has to be as well. And Liverpool are so aware of that. Maybe they're overly protective in the first half of the season, and that goes beyond their involvement. I'd include Trey Leone in this conversation as well as Rio in terms of the first team stuff, because they were sort of taking them out of training sessions as well earlier than others, and they weren't even getting involved in training on some days, and I don't think they were getting the required minutes of football full stop. And by that I mean they weren't getting on in Premier League or Champions League or Cup stuff or whatever with Arne Slot, because game states often dictated that they couldn't, and they weren't also dropping down to academy football either for a large part of the first half of the season, which I was always left a little bit bewildered by, because ultimately just weren't playing football, and that can't be good for your development. I understand the caution, because you can include Jayden Dans in that conversation we have about overplaying and overuse and being bitten by it, but ultimately they've got to play footy, because otherwise what are they doing? And I think they've got the balance just right since the turn of the year, actually, because they've started dropping down a lot more. For example, Trey Leone come down on Sunday and play 45 minutes, but it's a hard 45-minute cut-off. That's what he's got in his tank, because he was involved on Friday. So they're really clever. Rio doesn't, because obviously he plays 70. So they've found the balance now for me. And obviously it'll be micromanagement of Introvert's life. Sports science will be involved. They've got that bridge between the first team and the academy set up back in, obviously, Vitor Matos' role previously. They've got Luis Lubel in there now, Brazilian, doing all that stuff. His whole job, his whole remit is to make sure that players are getting the adequate amount of minutes and also the adequate amount of rest. So yeah, it is a real sort of knife edge one, and you've got to be so careful around it. But I do think just in the past 2-3 months they've started doing it properly, because it's, again, they need to play footy, but also they don't need to be overexposed to it. And like I say, I just think they've struck it nicely recently.
Yeah, certainly. It certainly looks like that.
Paul, I sort of think about this at the weekend, actually, when obviously after Rio's performance on Friday, and I was thinking about your son, and I was thinking, like, he's just 2 years behind Rio, essentially, isn't he? 2 and a bit years behind him. And you're thinking to yourself, how could someone who's just a couple of years older than him go and compete in Premier League football? Yeah. Like, and when you sort of think about someone you know in your life who's maybe 15, 16 years old, and you put them into that scenario, you think, bloody hell, it's wild what Rio's doing, really.
Not just physically, but mentally as well, yeah.
It's crazy.
You're dead right in that you don't think about this, because I think we see them differently on the pitch. And it's weird how whenever you meet them, you realise they're babies. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're so young. It is crazy to think you probably know kids in your family friends who are around that, and the idea of them going up against these like 6 foot, but going up 6'4" groks who just want to absolutely web you up in the air, you'd be terrified. It's like, absolutely terrified. So yeah, credit to him for handling it so far.
I'm sure when my daughter's that age, I'll still be scared of her crossing the road. Yeah. Never mind going up against the 6'5" centre half.
Yeah, but yeah. I was bothered when we somewhere to Hollywood Bowl with his mates, but there wasn't someone trying to absolutely web him down the lane for doing it.
Slide.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I want to move on to Mo Salah, Chloe. Scored, had a big hand in the first goal. It feels like he's going to be a bit like Liverpool's season in general. I think if we expect a corner to be turned and all of a sudden he's back to his absolute flourishing best, we're probably going to be a bit disappointed. But if he scored 2 goals this week, well, last week, and that's something, because but like, I sound like I'm damning him. I'm damning him with faint praise. But if he continues to contribute, then fine, because it's not like everyone else in the front three is absolutely banging in goals for fun, and that is almost the difference between Rio and Gamoa and him. Rio is all flash and excitement, but there's no goals and assists there. Salah, once again, looked like he was toiling in that match. He looked totally done in with it all, and then an opportunity presents him to just do something. Oh, I know this, and he comes to life again, gets the pre-assist for Robertson's goal, and then arrives at the back post. If we can just play him a bit more like stuff on a platter, he still has that. If he's not going to stretch the fences, he's not going to twist people inside and out, but he still doesn't know where the back of the net is.
Yeah, he does, and I think we're at least seeing glimpses of how much he used to impact games. You're never going to see that fully throughout an entire game, or him be at his very best and beat 5 players and put the ball in the back of the net like he used to do. But the important thing is, if you can get him in between the goalposts, then he's always got a chance at scoring, because he is really ruthless in those moments. I mean, there's been so many times in seasons where Chris mentioned it last season, he wasn't great for dribbling, but he gets 40-something goals, goal contributions. Why? Because you know, everything went through him and we got him in the right positions and areas. And if we can do that and present the ball to him, then, you know, you still back him to put it in the back of the net there. I also think, you know, his goal in the first one against Wolves, he has a lot to do. Yet the ball gets given on him, but he's got two lads chasing him down. Should the keeper save it? Absolutely, but he helps us get back into that game of football. So we're seeing glimpses, and this is the best version of Mo Salah I've seen in a while, if you get me, in terms of he's at least contributing to something. But like you said, if you can get him closer to the actual goal, then he's got a higher chance of, you know, factoring himself on the games.
I was just going to say, just to follow on from that, I did a deep dive last week on Gakpo and Mo Salah with Josh, and I sort of looked at their shot locations from the previous year to this year, and Salah in particular, I think this falls in perfectly with what happened at the weekend, Friday, is that in 24-25 he was having 8.5% of his shots from outside the penalty area, 80% from inside the penalty area, and then another 10% from inside the 6-yard box. This season in the Premier League, up until you know, just after Wolves, the first time around, the midweek game, he'd only had 1.9% of his shots from inside the 6-yard box. So there was a drop off of 10%, and those 10% of shots all went to outside of the box. Yeah. Right. So, and you can look at heat maps, and this will all tell you exactly the same thing. But you put one inside the 6-yard box with a fullback who's used to playing with Mo Salah on the opposite side in Andy Robertson, and all of a sudden Salah's getting the ball in the area of the field that he was finding it last season, and he gets a goal. And I think that shouldn't be overlooked. And actually, for me, the biggest change from Tuesday to Friday was the fullbacks.
Yes.
And I think that was the deciding factor in how Liverpool went about and made the Friday game so easy. It was the fact that Andy Robertson was so involved, and Szoboszlai, who, to be fair, I've never really liked the fullback, was so involved. And that was, they still take away the middle of the field. You know, you're still not seeing McAllister and Gravenberch on the ball enough, Jones on the ball enough, but, you know, you've got Szoboszlai, who I think completed about 95 of 102 passes. I think Robertson was about 95 or 96 from 103 passes. You know, when you compare that to Frimpong and Kerkez, who were around 30-40 passes on the Tuesday night, they were the biggest difference. You know, and Robertson puts in a performance, gets that goal, unbelievable, gets the assist. Szoboszlai's all action all over the field, making sure that you can get the ball into the right area. That was the biggest change, and Salah was a direct beneficiary of that from Andy Robertson.
Yeah, but that, all that being said, the problem with Salah and where he's good now, because he can't, I just don't think we need to keep giving him the ball on the right-hand touchline with two men between him and the corner of the 18-yard box. What's he going to do? Nothing. He needs people to play with. And there is a world where, with more Frimpong available, just pop us one off round the corner. We did none of that. That didn't happen until the later stages on Tuesday, and it didn't really happen anywhere near enough until later on again on Friday. We need to stop having Salah on an island. Just let him find a way to get him just closer to the 18-yard box, because you need, because look at the first goal. He kind of has that. We bomb a few balls over the top for him to chase on too, and he goes and he manages to keep hold of it, and you can almost see the relief in him. He's like, well, I can't fucking do anything. Oh Christ, look, here's some lads in red shirts to pass it to. Drops a little nutmeg and we're in. So yeah, that, you know, it's almost like, and whether this is him just deciding to do this himself in game and not understanding his own limitations, or tactically, if it's tactical, they need to change that, because you're dead right. Mo Salah does not score goals from outside the box anymore. You know, so we need to stop pretending that that's a thing.
100%, and I think that's where it comes back to. I do see it as a systematic issue. I think the manager has asked for us to do that a little bit more with Salah. For the life of me, can't understand why you'd want to do that, because I'm like you, I'm tearing my hair out every time he picks the ball up with chalk on his boots, thinking, he's not going to get into the penalty area. Why are we doing this? But
is it maybe to draw someone out to give space for the centre forward?
I think it's a step change for the centre forward. Yeah. I was just about to say, yeah, I think it is the fact that we're playing with a completely different centre forward profile compared to last season. I think Diaz, you know, for the most part, was probably the centre forward last season, and he's a bit more of a drop in. I think Gakpo dropped in a little bit more than maybe Ekitike would in the Friday night game, and I think that just facilitates that. But ultimately, are you asking, would you rather have 40 goals from Mo Salah or 15 from Ekitike? Well, it's an easy one, innit? It's whether this Mo Salah can get you 40 goals, because I don't think that's the case either, from being honest.
Yeah, I don't think anyone really does, do they? But there's definitely a somewhere in between you know, because he's got the capability. And I think actually we saw that Gakpo missed a similar chance last week. You know, ball played across the face of the box to the back stick, and he skied it. Yeah. But that was they were very archetypal Liverpool goals, and there is also the consideration, you know, as good as Szoboszlai does the job, the turmoil we've had at right back doesn't help, and the fact that none of them are Trent Alexander-Arnold has an impact as well in that. But there haven't been enough of those goals from our wide forwards. Those Man City wide forward goals from like 5 years ago, where Sterling or Bernardo Silva or Leroy Sané or whatever would just be there at the back post to just knock one in because you totally worked them to death. But it's encouraging that we are putting a few more of those into the box.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I said in my sort of post-match reaction following the game on Friday night, like, we're not going to see all singing, all dancing Mo Salah anymore. I think those days have unfortunately gone. But if we can just get a functional version of Mo Salah between now and the end of the season, now we are in the business end of it, we'll be better for it. Because if you can find the happy medium, which is keep him involved in the game enough to sort of keep him ticking over, and then get him into those sort of areas, muscle memory will kick in then. You put him inside the box with a tiny bit of time and space, doesn't even need much of it, because Chloe mentioned a minute ago, he still does have that ruthlessness in front of goal. Like, we haven't seen anywhere near enough of that, and he'll probably miss more chances than he used to, but he'll come up with the goods, you know, when you need him sometimes still. And we know, whatever you think of Mo Salah, and there's been a lot said about him, especially since his outburst at Leeds, of course, like, he still wants Liverpool to succeed, and he'll want nothing more. If this is to be his final season at the football club, he'll want nothing more than to ride off into the sunset with a trophy and a medal or two. So I think and he's going to play, isn't he? That's the other thing here. Like, we speak about Rio and all the qualities that he brings. He's likely to still be used fleetingly, and on the left, when we do see him, we don't really have an alternative on the right. So whatever we can do, find that balance, find that happy medium to get Mo Salah up and running between now and the end of the season is crucial to me.
I just wanted to sort of think about this as well. And this is a question for sort of everybody, really. Obviously, we've had maybe 15 years of wingers being the absolute, you know, dog's bollocks in the Premier League. Has the league taken that away a little bit this season? Are we seeing more of a reversion to the centre forward being the goal getter? Because you think from when Mourinho probably came in, maybe longer than 15 years ago, and Yarn Robbins and all that type of stuff. And then it was just wingers. Liverpool were the absolute best at it. Man City were the best at it. Are there two wingers for a side who are getting the goals for teams anymore, or is the Premier League just finally caught up and found a way? And is this maybe the big Grock centre back, right back, left back thing?
Well, the centre forwards, actually, because there's obviously Haaland is the prime example of what we're doing here, isn't he? But there's actually lads who aren't Erling Haaland, like Thiago at Brentford, who are putting up not similar numbers, but very impressive numbers. And in reality, are they of the level that the people were talking about? Probably not. So you're probably right. The league probably has shifted towards being more centre forward dominant. You know what I mean?
The only thing, Harvey Barnes gets a couple of, like, Harvey Barnes is Newcastle.
Nothing like the numbers we're talking about,
no,
you know.
But like, he's their best player
at the moment.
One,
but he doesn't score loads either.
He didn't score for about a year.
Saka's a great example. A brilliant winger who does fucking nothing in the goals and assists.
But even they tried to go.
Can't help yourself.
Even they tried to go for a centre forward to get them the goals. Hasn't particularly come to pass. But
I mean,
who's the closest? Semenyo.
He was
he's playing inside.
I'm going to say he was probably more that at Bournemouth, because he was the one that sprung to mind, and then I kind of remembered he'd gone to City, which probably dries that up a little bit as well.
Their wingers,
and Buemo started the season getting goals. Hasn't really got the goals recently. There's probably
but
not where you're looking
playing central for United.
Sesko's been their key goal getter of late, hasn't he? So and João Pedro at Chelsea has been the goal scorer.
It's funny when you think about it. Actually, Liverpool's wingers, comparatively to the rest of the league, probably kind of on a par with goals and assists.
Yeah, no, exactly. This season, certainly. It's funny though, because the Haaland centre forward thing is the outlier, but I actually think Salah, Mane were the outlier in that as well. You know, like nobody had wingers that scored goals like
to that level. Yeah,
with the exception, I'm sure somebody's shouting.
Mane's had a couple of seasons
in isolation, but even then, you know, it's that was a bit of a time and place thing. The thing for me is that, yeah, I think wingers are the biggest asset in the Premier League this season, but not necessarily in the way that you're kind of alluding to, of like, they're not 20 goal a season wingers anymore. They're just pacey threats that keep the other team honest at all times, and it's just something that's severely lacking from what we've got, really. But it is, it's interesting. It really is.
You can have a look at the top goal scorers.
What we're missing, because, and it goes back to this point I made weeks and weeks ago, if Alex Isak had just done what he was meant to do, he'd probably be the 20-goal-a-season striker, and everything else would make sense. We just wouldn't be asked about Gakpo and Salah's output because the British transfer record has come in and hit the ground running, done what he's done. We wouldn't be as... Ekitike has been good, but he's not yet it, is he? He's not yet he's not your guy who you're like, give the ball to Ekitike and he will definitely go and win a game of football for you just yet. So
his numbers are probably still in the round understudy numbers. Is that disrespectful? Is that unfair?
Not compared to the rest of our team.
Compared to the rest of our team, but I'm talking about in that fantasy world where Isak was up and running.
I think I think our forward numbers are for a team that should be fighting between 3rd and 6th in the league, because we haven't got that absolute goal machine.
So can I ask a question then? Next season, if this is now how football is played and this is the way it's going to be moving forward for the next 10 years, I don't know.
Yeah, can't see a Sky subscription.
Isak comes in. Do you reckon then that the version of Salah and Gakpo now isn't necessarily a problem or as much of a problem next year?
It still would be.
Like, my point being is, like, are you just a bit... We're all assuming Isak will become our version of Haaland, but there's nothing that's proven that in a red shirt at this
No, there isn't. But I think, the Salah and Gakpo thing, you still need more from them. Yeah. Just in terms of threat, more than anything else. Because at the minute, they're not a net negative. That is properly disrespectful. But they're not offering anything.
They're not a net positive.
They're not offering anything. They're not beating them.
They're hard, aren't they?
So if this is the way
the boat. I love Mo Salah for what he's done, but they're not right now. They're not it.
But if this is the way football's going to be played, then where does Ekitike play then? If Alexander Isak is...
But again, we still haven't seen us be able to deploy Ekitike on the left. And I said this the other week.
He's got the skill set to do it.
There's nothing in how his game is that he couldn't be doing exactly the same things from the left wing. It really, really couldn't. And he can still get into the box and score goals from there as well. And it's just that we were saying it during the commentary that you don't know what you're missing, because there's something that's made Liverpool look at Alexander Isak and go, he's worth the trouble. He's worth the money and the effort they went to get him, and it will be those fine marginal differences. He must be better than Hugo Ekitike, and we can't wrap our heads around that because we fucking love Hugo Ekitike and he looks absolutely amazing. But it's not too far a logical jump to suggest that if you'd put a fit Isak into that team instead of Gakpo, all of a sudden Rio and Gamoa's got 5 times in those dribbles where there's just a completely unmarked, because of his movement, Alexander Isak, and the games become loads more simple off the back of it. So, yeah. And also, the footy thing, it'll change. Again, people will adapt. Attacking footy always ends up winning out, particularly when you're a big team, because you just throw money at the solution. You copy what the hot trend is yourselves, and then you add your quality on top. It's why Bayern Munich are never far away from a title, and why Man City have just been able to perpetually do it, etc., etc., etc. But interesting, nevertheless. I'd love to just have a 5-game spell at the end of the season with Ekitike, Isak, Frimpong, or Ngamoa off the right-hand side. Cool. Andy Robertson, fantastic. Love a bit of Robbo. Happy to see that. And I suppose the other big wins, Chris. Full game off for Ekitike.
Yeah.
And Kerkez.
Yeah.
Majority game off for Kanate. Nearly come on and scored. Didn't. Probably should have got back a bit quicker, if we're being all told. But minutes of it, Frimpong. And actually, the cameo from Nioni was wonderful as well. When you include Kieran Morris come off the bench, it all felt like a perfect early round FA Cup game. Really.
Yeah, perfect for me only if we didn't concede. But yes, I take your point. You are right. That was just annoying more than anything. I think we needed a clean sheet there, so that pissed me off a little bit.
For the FA Cup goal difference.
Just for the fucking psychological impact of keeping a clean sheet for the first time in what seems like this year. Yeah. So no, I would have enjoyed that certainly. But yeah, big wins all round. I mean, kudos to Dan, obviously, called it last week on the podcast that Morrison would get minutes over the course of those 2 games. So yeah, well played, sir.
Thank you.
Kirkes, I think it's important that he gets a rest, and I think, I think it was important for Robertson to reaffirm his position within this squad as well, and make sure that the manager knows that he's there and a bloody good option still at any point between now and the end of the season, because he just added so much for us going forwards. And yeah, Canate near enough a game off. It all worked really well, I suppose, didn't it?
It really did. Yeah, it was just nice to have it be pressure free. Honestly, them conceding, Wolves conceding, them scoring, I think I'd have been more arsed if Liverpool weren't quite clearly not arsed themselves about it. We just decided we were going for 4. Almost for a laugh. I mean, the fact that Canate has that 1 squid which he misses, and then we have the corner, and like we've not gone, let's put 9 men back behind the ball because we don't care. We're fighting for this. The lads clearly decided we're enjoying our life. We're enjoying footy. Let's go and see if we can add an extra bow on it.
And Sabozlai decided to try and pull the ball out.
Yeah, and there was reason for that freedom. I think we haven't had ample opportunities to go out there and have that little bit of shackles off, go and express yourself. We haven't found ourselves in that position all too often, I think it's fair to say. And I think some of the lads on the pitch who maybe don't get as much of a look in, you mentioned Trey there, I thought he was superb during his cameo. It's probably the best I've seen him at first team level, to be honest. And obviously I mentioned Kieran Morrison, who is absolutely full of confidence right now, scoring goals for fun, under 21 level. He's captain of that. He's took the armband off of Marinello recently, and deservedly so. He's been exceptional. And
be disappointed with his efforts.
The only blot on that evening for me was the effort, because I know, and he knows all too well, and I think he knew instantly, he's so much better than that. And he's not, like, he's both-footed. It's probably easier on the right, and he takes it on his left. He snatches at it.
It's like the Rio Newcastle one almost, isn't it? He takes it on the...
honestly, he's perfectly capable of going that right-footed. I'm telling you, it did me head into it. I'm still thinking about it now. You can tell he could have easily gone right-footed. He probably could have took a touch. Like, honestly, he had everything. He got all the attributes required to make that happen, and he just doesn't. It's a massive shame.
By the way, the funniest part was that, like, our away end clearly was too busy just having fun. Because that happened, and everyone went, who the hell is that? Like, I think that's Kieran Morrison, and everyone went, when did he come on the pitch? And I was like, I don't know. Don't remember that sub happening.
Then. You've got your passage through, you've got your goals, you've got your Rio brilliance, you've got your Trey Naoni cameo, and then the lad coming on for a very rare opportunity scores. Then it would have been the perfect night to get a goal.
He's got everything, hasn't he? So he's got the Swiss Army knife out, and he's picked the nail clippers for some reason.
And again,
the one tool you never use from the Swiss Army knife.
He's put there's a pitching wedge in here.
there's no explaining it either, because again, he's absolutely flying at the minute, and I know for a fact he will be ruined that. He wouldn't have slept that night. He'd have been fuming with himself.
But it reminds me of West Ham, where Trey Naoni, Frimpong puts one on a plate for him, and he's that excited. He's lent back, and it just goes over the bar, and it was like harder to miss than to score.
But it's just nice, isn't it? That again, the old guard have done the business, and that allows. Because going back to this, like, tactics and for this, sometimes you need a bit of luck, and sometimes you need, again, the senior players to just step up and be counted, and that's it allows the manager to make those kind of substitutions and make those decisions and give everyone that extra positivity.
Absolutely. We've gone through the game, and we've not talked about Curtis Jones, and he does exactly that, doesn't he? And actually, I look at the finish and the calmness under pressure, and that ability to sort of pass the ball into the net with your wrong foot. And actually, that's what Rio should be looking at. Because when you get into those situations, you need that calmness of mind for it to just, everything slow down, take a breath, still yourself, and just put the ball in the bottom of the corner. And I hope someone's gone to Rio at the end of the game, see how Kerr took that. That's what I want you to do in the penalty area when you get those. Because he had one where he cuts inside on his right boot, and he just passes it to the keeper in the centre of the goal, doesn't he? You just need that little bit more composure.
It was a timely reminder from Curtis, I think. And I feel like I've said this a few times in recent weeks.
It clearly wasn't a reminder to you.
No, but like, in terms, I know, I think I kept him off the air, I forgot about that, but no, I think he probably needed that as well. But as you kind of said about Andy Robertson, like, just reminded us all, and indeed the manager, of his qualities, because I thought both of them were brilliant on the night, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. Very nice to see. Very nice.
Did Curtis complete every pass again?
I think he did.
That's what he does.
There's a few actually.
Mad.
I think Trey had 100. I think he had 100%. I know it was
think he
much
only had
less,
8
but
passes,
yeah. But all the same, nice of him.
Cute.
Very good, very good for Curtis Jones. I'll just say on top of all this though, because the big question is like, what's the difference between those two games? And I think the nature of cup football helped us, Chris, because we scored 2 goals on the counter attack, which makes a huge difference, which you don't get to do very often this season in the Premier League against anyone. But it does go to show if you're taking those opportunities when they present themselves, because there will come moments in games where teams do try to get up the pitch, and it is on us to just be that little bit more clinical with the opportunities. When
Yeah, absolutely. It does have an impact. You can look at the Arsenal game against Mansfield, can't you? They didn't score from a corner. So it's a completely different game of football that we're playing in the Cup nowadays, aren't we? So, now Liverpool, you're right, I'm obviously joking and stuff, but like Liverpool just... There was a little bit more freedom to go out there and get the results, and that's what they did, and that's all you can ask for.
Absolutely. So the quarters of the FA Cup. I like it when you get out of the numbered rounds.
There's too many numbers.
Too many numbers, isn't there? What's that about?
I mean, the fact that they go through the first round and the second round before you get to the first round proper is just bananas anyway, isn't it?
Qualifying ones.
Yeah.
Loads of qualifying.
Oh yeah.
The qualifying's probably started now for next year's competition.
I mean,
like this.
What round would it be up to if it just went up normally?
I'll be insane. You're probably talking, before we get to the quarters, I think you're around 12, I want to say.
And it's not like, I don't think it's unmanageable to just do that.
It feels excessive to me.
First round proper. Well, hang on a minute. Does that mean you've had a first round?
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly clearly what number it does start off at.
I'll trust Wikipedia says there are 12 randomly drawn rounds followed by the semi-finals and the final.
Oh, so one off.
Yeah.
That's not
bad.
lucky. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Who do you want?
Oh,
Paul Vale.
Paul Vale. At home.
Because I've seen people say not that. I've seen people say they want one like your Arsenal, Man City at home
thank
because
you,
your
I'm
prospects of beating them at Anfield are greater than they are at Wembley, which I do get.
Yeah.
But also, kind of give me Port Vale.
Don't give us any away games.
Give me,
against any of them, though.
Also,
We're shit in those games.
can I ask what we feel about going to London and Wembley for a semi-final?
Oh, it's dreadful.
I can't
never liked it since
stand it.
It's dreadful.
Villa.
Never
I
liked it.
cannot stand it. The only time I've thoroughly enjoyed it was City, and even then, you come out of the ground going, right there.
Could have come back.
I've reached the final.
Yeah.
All that's been a boss time.
Did you go? Was
but-
it 2012 when we played Everton in the semi-final? Did you go to
Andy
that
Carroll.
one? Yeah. I
didn't
mean,
know
that was a belter.
Was.
Because
Yeah, I mean,
us all travelling down there and them travelling back.
yeah, of
really
course.
pissed off was just
FA Cup
fantastic.
gives you that. It gives you the memories, the moments, but that could have happened somewhere, not Wembley. You know what I mean? There will be times that you look back on fondly, clearly.
Because
but it shouldn't be Wembley.
The only
just kind of
time I'm
full stop for
thinking
me.
is literally that City game. And once again, you come out the ground like thinking that, it deserves more than me now getting on a coach to make that win the final.
Though, and again, it was just that was a belter of a game,
was.
belter of a day. That was what you're right.
Sun.
Dead hot, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Dead hot,
it's
yeah.
That was a
delightful.
glorious day out that. But no, I completely agree with that. I mean, for fuck's sake,
Can't
the
be
best time I've had in the Community Shield was when they played at Leicester.
Yeah.
When we went to that one. Great. It's like, stop putting these. It's not a showpiece fixture. It's a fucking another round of the cup.
Yeah.
Put it in Old Trafford. Put it in Villa Park. Put it in wherever you want. You know what I mean? Just stop putting them in. Stop putting them in. But anyway, look, let's not get too downbeat about this.
Is Old Trafford
Right now,
good enough for an FA Cup semi-final, do you think?
Depends on the weather. Depends on the weather.
Yeah,
If it's raining, no.
it's big enough and close enough, Chris. Come on, like
You've got probably more, eh? You've got Anfield.
not big enough and too close. Wouldn't be a day out, and it would be.
I don't know, it takes a long time to get to and from there.
Yeah, if you're driven down Queen's Drive on a match day. Whoa, God almighty. Yeah, if you try to go shopping in town on an Everton match day.
Costco. Do not go
To write
Costco.
off, mate. Forget about it.
Costco way, we'll have to go. We're going there for a semi.
The big Tesco, innit?
Does anyone want to make a case for not Port Vale?
No.
No, but also, did you know that all the Everton fans are just going to Costco for the scan now?
Yeah.
Before
Walking
and
out with
after.
platters.
Honestly,
Sandwiches.
18-inch pizzas, lads. They're just going in there. It's so much cheaper than their ground.
Well, all
You
the
can
pubs,
get an
all the pubs are dead.
You can go and get an 18-inch pizza from fucking Costco for the price of some chips in the stadium. And then
Blue sauce, have you got blue sauce?
No, I don't think so. But Baz is going back afterwards for an ice cream if they win to let the traffic die down.
As a treat. He's had one ice cream all year then.
Love it. So yeah, we're going to be wrapping up the FA Cup fixtures from the weekend over on the Bias Football Pod a little bit later on after this show. But yeah, you know who I wanted, that now's not possible.
Wrexham.
Oh no,
Yeah.
we gutted. Robbie Williams is Port Vale.
Unfortunately,
Will that
you're
do for
going to
you?
have to wait till New York.
Okay, now. Oh my God, that's like mum bringing home frozen pizza instead of Domino's. That isn't it? Like,
You've got him at home.
Right, sad. Right, let's have a little break. When we return, we'll discuss Galatasaray and Spurs.
I want us to go back to being a powerful, energetic team. For me, when you've got Wirtz, who's starting to look the part in an attacking midfield role, I think almost everybody around him has got to be powerful and quick.
Yeah.
For me, I think we need a central midfield player.
Yeah.
We need pace in the wide areas. So that's what I'm talking about, going back to the Mo Salah of old, Sadio Mane, Diaz. We need energy. But just the way the way I see football, I'd always rather be a team like Arsenal, who people were saying they need to be more creative, than someone saying, we had all these creative players, but we're a bit soft. I'd always rather be that. I'd always rather be powerful and strong and, tough to beat, really, rather than the other way. So, and of course, you're trying to get that balance perfect, but I'd rather be that than probably where we are right now. When I see some games, like I watched the Nottingham Forest first time, I'm thinking, I never want to see my team play like that.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. In the interim, I hope you've enjoyed watching that little clip of Jamie Carragher. The full interview is out on redmenplus.com and, of course, on the app on your mobiles as well. So go and have a little mooch around. Check it out. All the free stuff's on there. And if you subscribe, not only will you get that Jamie Carragher interview, but you'll also get the free stuff ad-free as well. Perfect time because the Reds are the business and flying in the cups and less so in the league. In the interim, we just slightly pissed on some work that Dan was very excited about, so I apologise.
That's all right. I'll go again.
It's absolutely fine. Look,
I didn't do it.
I really like this. We're like, yeah, but okay, it's fine. It's really good. Anywho, Galatasaray tomorrow, Chloe. Yeah, we're not in the pool.
Sad.
We will be. You're doing the watch along, aren't you?
I am, yeah. Are you not doing a watch along?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we've done a watch along together.
No.
Ever?
Yeah.
No.
Well,
When does Chloe not go to the match?
Have you done a watch with anyone other than me?
I might have done
Steve.
one with
You've
Steve.
done a Steve watch along.
Steve's at least been on Champions League last day, all round scores when we've been on it.
Oh, the chair.
Yeah. But the chair.
The not to be named.
Just the chair.
Just the chair.
Champions
I
League.
won't give it its
Just
Christian
chair.
name this time.
Anyway, yes, Chloe.
Moving swiftly on.
It is yet another pivotal week in a whole slew of pivotal weeks we've had lately. Yeah, we could really do with getting a good, solid result here, to be perfectly honest, because when we played them in the league phase, it was a bit of a non-event, and then obviously let down by a daft penalty.
Yeah, but I think it actually changes for them this time round. Look, back then they were only focused on this one game, where you've got to look at the bigger picture. They've got to come back to Anfield and they're not allowed any of their fans inside our stadium. So they're going to want...
Banned,
Yeah.
banned.
Oh, I fucking hate that. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, so they're going to need, you'd feel, to bring something into that Anfield game, especially with not having, anyone on their side in the stadium. So for me, I reckon they might be a little bit more attacking. I reckon they might... They need to bring something to Anfield to keep a hold of. So I actually like this matchup a little bit better than I did, because there's a bigger picture, because you've got a second leg at Anfield, but also the fact that they can't bring fans means they need to take some sort of advantage, and to do that I feel like they've got to be a little bit more attacking and use the crowd in their stadium, which can be bad for us, but also if it gives us the space to pick them off and it's easier to pick them off, then I'll have a bit of that all day long, because trying to break them down for 90 minutes, it'd once again probably be a non-event with them getting a 96-minute winner or something. So I actually like the idea of this game of football a little bit better. Watch in 24 hours when they just sit the bus and I want to hate my life again.
Dan?
Yeah, listen, Chloe's right on sort of the dynamic shift this time around than what it was previously, obviously, and I do think Galatasaray might be slightly more inclined
Aggressive.
to try and be a bit more aggressive and be a bit more on the front foot. And I think they would be regardless of the away fan situation, to be honest with you. I think there is a requirement before anyone comes to Anfield to have at least some sort of leg up in the tie if you can possibly help it. It's going to be a tricky one because we saw what they're all about, obviously, earlier on this season. They've got quality as well. They've got goals in their side. So never likely to be straightforward. I think we'll take our learnings from that game as well. I think we'll be better for it as well, to be fair. So, yeah, it's an interesting tie. Not the tie I would have picked, to be honest, in terms of what was possible for us. But
Not the side of the draw either.
no, definitely not that. And I think Liverpool have been a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde. We have full stop. We could probably end the conversation there, to be honest, this season. But away in Europe as well, because we've had the games like this one first time around, and we've also had sort of the highs of Frankfurt as well, where we've been quite impressive, I think, actually away from home. So it's hard to know what version of us is going to turn up. But yeah, Galatasaray are a good side who have a lot of quality. They've got a lot of former Premier League quality as well, so they know the way around playing against Liverpool. So yeah, difficult proposition, I think.
I think inevitably, Chris, people will look at how they were in the last round and what they did against Juventus in their own ground. I would like to remind everyone, with the full confidence and arrogance of a man who doesn't have to deal with this game for the 24 hours, that Juventus and Serie A are shite.
They also were 3-0 up and got a red card, and Galatasaray eventually killed the tie off in extra time. But without that red card, who knows? Because Juve were by far the better side in that second leg.
They have a tendency to shit the bed a little bit, Galatasaray. And I think actually the age profile of their side suggests that they're not great deep into games. So maybe there's something there in terms of this away game in particular. If we can, it hasn't always worked like this for us especially, but if we can keep it at 0-0, fitness may well prevail potentially. But that's pie in the sky when it comes to Liverpool.
How you feel about it?
I think the interesting thing I think going into this game is how the manager approaches it, because I think we've seen from Arne this year that he's quite pragmatic. I think he will probably be looking at that second leg and thinking maybe that's the place that we go through. I hope that's not the case, to be honest with you. I really do hope that we go and we try and put a marker down and bring something back ourselves. Mm-hmm. It's going to be difficult because of their fans, and I think their fans are going to be even louder because they're not allowed in the game at Anfield as well, so that adds something to it. But I don't like the idea of us sitting back and trying to play for something and get them back at Anfield and finish the job. Just go out there. We should be better than them. We can be better than them. Yeah. Go out there and prove it, you know what I mean? And to be honest, I'd really just like that tie to be put to bed in one game and just have something where we can just not have to think about it as much at Anfield. There's big nights at Anfield coming in the European Cup. Just not Galatasaray.
Yeah.
The other thing that when I was looking into this game, they've got 7 players who are 1 yellow card away from not playing in that returning leg at Anfield. So, and a lot of them are your Davinson Sanchez's, your Leroy Sané, Osimhen, players like that. So if we can try and annoy the living daylights out of them, then maybe a couple of them won't be featuring very much like their fans in that away leg.
Yeah.
At Anfield.
Yeah.
I think the fans things not. I fear that. I hate.
No,
here.
I hate that.
Oh, here.
Because you remember we did this
Atletico. They'll get in.
Who was it?
Who?
Well, I remember there being Atletico fans in
the main in the Kenny.
I'm thinking of we played. Was it maybe Red Star when we played a game when they had no fans in 2018? I think one of Fabinho's early games for us, and it's weird playing a game of football where there's no one to shout against almost. It actually doesn't contribute. You go, well, it's a ground full of Liverpool fans. It should be the best atmosphere ever, and it's not, because you do need that antipathy or whatever to kind of get it going. But anyway, just a shame, isn't it? I mean, it's their fault for being pricks.
Somewhere along the line.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we're going to batter these. I do. I just think we will. I think the preparation was as good as it could possibly have been because of the way the weekend went. I think, a fresh Hugo Ekitike, a fit Wirtz, a fit Frimpong, a fresh Kerkez, and obviously, apparently McAllister was training, so that's good. That was my one hangover maybe from all this, but it feels like we're, again, we've played them. We've had a look at them as well, which I think helps. And my memory of that game is that we had a few chances early on where we were playing Ekitike over the top, and he didn't quite sort his feet out a couple of times, and then again we didn't really kick on, but it was a long time ago in terms of our development in the season.
Penalty?
The one where the soft penalty. Sabozlai played at right back, Frimpong started right wing, which I think is another potential option for this one. I just got a good feeling about it. I just think even if you come away with a 2-0 win in this one, I think that I'd like the balance of where you feel like you've got one foot in the next round, but you still got something to play for at Anfield, so it doesn't feel like a after the Lord Mayor's show non-event maybe. Anyone want to have a go picking a team?
Well, not Alison Becker,
Yeah.
who has not travelled to Istanbul. Injured this morning in training, apparently.
Oh.
So, not sure whether that dampens your high spirits about it at all. But
No, well, he got injured in there last time, didn't he?
yeah, it's a shame though, isn't it, ultimately?
What's he done?
I'm not sure. No details as of yet on exactly what happened, but he was training this morning perfectly fine.
Was he throwing the ball over the net?
Tim Sherwood was living.
Tim Sherwood was fuming. Did you see that? They were throwing one of those balls over the net. What's it called?
Medicine ball.
Medicine ball. And Tim Sherwood lost his mind on Sky Sports. But what did he say it was? Nonsense. It baffles me. What are they doing? And the other guy went, well, strength and conditioning. Nonsense.
He also said that Liverpool.
Him,
he also said Liverpool hadn't been a threat from corners, and then Bobby Firmino headed it in. So, no Alison Becker, which again is a huge blow.
Well, if we want a goalkeeper that's not very good at kicking to come in, we've got one of them waiting in the wings. So it's absolutely fine.
Georgie comes in from the start. I'd be Frimpong right back.
I'd be Frimpong right back.
I would.
Can I interest you though in potentially putting Frimpong right wing at some point?
No.
You can certainly interest me.
You can say it out loud.
Yeah,
it doesn't interest me.
I'd be interested.
Because I was just thinking, if it is one of those games where Liverpool are struggling to get out or whatever, then Ekitike and Frimpong.
You see, for me, right, he does that anyway, regardless of what position he's in. You know what I mean? I think he can do that perfectly well from right back. You know what I mean? Because that is the pace that we're talking about and the recovery pace to boost. I don't think it's an issue where he plays for
just
that.
Did he not do that in the first?
I thought he was really poor in that game.
But did he not do that?
No. I don't recall him being that outlet forward, necessarily over there.
Did he not play right wing?
He played right wing, but he was really poor.
But it was also
Salah was not involved.
I think he'd just come back from injury, and it was the first time he'd done it for us. But I think he's been excellent every other time that he's played there.
Was this the game that Salah was axed from?
Maybe he was in that run of games that he wasn't involved in, potentially, I'm not sure. There was 3, wasn't it?
It was the one where like
West
he
Ham,
couldn't,
Leeds,
once
and
he came out and
this was back in
take him.
September, 30th September. We played this before.
Beforehand. Yeah. Either way, I'll be honest with you, I've never been in love with Frimpong in terms of starting the right wing. I think from the cameos he's had in that position when he's come on and maybe impacted the game when it's a bit more stretched, possibly. I think as a starting option, he should be a right back for me. And again, I think he can offer all very similar things that he does from the right wing as a right back, personally.
I think it'll be pretty much the same side that started on Tuesday night. Mm-hmm. I think so. That'll put Frimpong and Kerkez as the 2 fullbacks. Obviously, there's no Alisson, so Mamadashvili. I think probably Wirtz. And maybe you look at dropping Sabozlai deeper into the McAllister position or something like that. And then it's Hugo, it's Gakpo, and it's Salah is probably what the manager will do more than anything.
Yeah.
I think it's a good starting place to go with because of just the way that we know Liverpool rotate. Yeah, exactly. But equally, I wouldn't be against Sabozlai right back, Frimpong right wing. I just wouldn't. There's just something to having getting pace in your side, particularly away from home, particularly if they're going to try and take the game to us, of just having Ekitike and Frimpong sitting on the shoulder and go ahead lads, fill your boots, smashing balls over the top and see what comes of it. But again, what he wants to do with the midfield will be a big part of that. You'd imagine if he's fit, McAllister will play, but if he's had a knock, he might consider not. And what's the most stable midfield you can then put out? Probably then, if you're playing Sabozlai right back, it's Jones in there with Gravenberch, isn't it? Options, not against any of it. Let us know in the comments, what would you do? What would your 11 be? Let's look ahead briefly then to Spurs. Chloe, they play Atletico Tuesday, but more importantly, what we need to do at the weekend is remind Tottenham Hotspur that they are shite. Not but complete enough to shite.
Does he need much of a reminder right now?
Email them.
Who do West Ham play this weekend, or Forest? Because,
No idea.
you know, they'll be looking at you.
Like, it just, this season for Arsenal really reminds me of when we were going for the quad and we won the cups and Everton were nearly going down, and how fantastic it was for us as fans. And you look at Arsenal now, which we've got to mention that keyword on the Biased Football podcast, by the way, after this. The fact that they're in the hunt for 4 trophies and Tottenham are where they are.
You've got a
right
very
now,
good chance, by the way. Very good chance.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's no, it is interesting. But the thing about Spurs is, I don't like. There's something about it's just a psychological weakness of mine. I hate playing teams when you're expected to win.
Yeah.
I always feel like we struggle in games like that, which is probably not true. We probably win.
I remember Tuesday against Wolves pretty well.
They were in good form, though, to be fair. Which Tottenham are not.
Yeah.
But there is that thing where, yeah, you know, Wolves have developed like a psychological security with what they're doing at the moment. You know, I think they're quite comfortable with what they are and who they are. Spurs are not. Spurs are a mess. The fans are a mess. The players are a mess. The coaching team's a mess. You don't want to fall foul in this one of, just like being complacent or whatever. You've got to go out there. There's an opportunity to fucking batter Tottenham.
There is, and if you could put them in the relegation zone as well, that'd be quite delightful as well. And also with Mickey van der Ven, who is, you know, one of their only hopes, got a red card the other day, so he will not be able to feature against us, which makes their thin team even thinner.
He'll be in the cup, I think.
Romero will be back though. He's served his 4 games now, but who knows, he might get another red card because that's just what he
likes
does
them
as
in
well.
games against
He does.
the better sides, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Just
But Liverpool can't lose focus and can't underestimate them. There's still, you know, a side that's got some decent players there, and we need to make sure that we don't let any of them have any happiness.
Whether they've been crap or not, because it is 2 Champions League last 16 teams we play this week, you know, and obviously Spurs are not.
And Europa League winners.
And Europa League, raiding Europa League holders.
Europa League holders versus the Premier League holders.
Get your medals on the table, lads.
God about it. When we walk out on the pitch, just like heads down, going, we know.
And your Mickey van der Ven in the cop, giving you that.
And Ange was there as well, probably.
Big time, I'd love it.
But it goes back to the thing about how they balance the squad out. I'm not totally against something similar, but it would be, I don't know, I can't see a world where Slot rotates as much for the Spurs game as he did for the Wolves game, even though in reality Wolves are actually in much better form than Tottenham.
Yeah, they are, to be fair. Let's not forget here that Tottenham go away to Atletico Madrid, I think, in the Champions League.
The thing I said 2 minutes ago.
Which is why I'm just reiterating the point, Paul.
Let us remember the thing I said 2 minutes ago. Yeah, go on, carry on.
Obviously,
They like playing
stuff there. That'll be a war of attrition for them anyway, won't it? So I think, I fancy us to beat Tottenham. I don't feel as confident about Galatasaray, if I'm being honest, but
Really?
yeah.
I'm the other way. I'm with Paul. For some reason, Spurs, like in my head, Spurs have got to show up at some point. Is it the fact that they've lost 5 on the run or whatever, 10 on the run or whatever? What is it? It's the fact that
fear factor of being bantered rather than actually looking at their team and thinking, wow, they're shit.
Well, yeah, and also in my head, I can't picture a world where Spurs actually go down, which means they've got to start picking up points right now.
And the players.
We are next. Yeah. And with our level of inconsistency, you just don't know what Liverpool's going to rock up on that day as well. I could imagine 70 minutes of absolute nothingness once again, but I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping we really get it.
It's so funny though, because I apply the same logic, but Galatasaray are playing at home in a fucking ground that's really hard to go to. And a team that's already beaten us once this season, and we've come to 2 completely different answers.
Yeah. I think with Galatasaray, my thought is just, I reckon they'll be a little bit more aggressive, which might suit us in terms of trying to pick them off a little bit. It doesn't mean that, I reckon they'll score, but hopefully Liverpool will be able to take the chances on the break.
See, I think Galatasaray will be full of themselves, because why not? Because that's what happens when you're a big team in your own country at home, and they'll come and take the game to us, and I think we'll beat them.
Like when we snotted Porto and they've not been beaten at their ground for like 2 years.
Exactly. And also, again, why not? They battered Juventus. They will think that it's possible to do that to us, and I think that might play into our hands. Whereas Tottenham, Tudor's gonna at some point just have them all in lockdown mode and have them come and be a big gang of brick shit houses blocking the 18-yard box, and I worry that this will be the game where
It works.
this is the one where they finally listen to him.
Well,
and
now
they
I
do
feel
it.
fucking terrible about both games. Thanks, guys.
Can I ask you a question though?
Fucking hell.
Based on the balance of like what we saw last week, who would bite my hand off for a 0-0 draw at Galatasaray and a 3-0 win over Spurs?
Yeah,
That's fine, yeah,
all
I'll
day
take
long,
that.
Mate.
all day long.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I'd like
yeah.
2 wins, but you know, I'll take
Well,
that.
Can we change it for like a 2-all draw just so there's something there?
Oh, yeah.
Just for
Is that
searchability,
all right?
just for searchability on YouTube. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, again, it's that inconsistency of it all, isn't it? But the hope is, it's 2 big games, 2 big games of football, 2 teams who will hope. Again, you don't know about it. Hopefully, will harbour some sort of ambition in the football match, and fingers crossed that will play into our hand. But I'm feeling good, feel confident. I'm feeling 2 wins this week. I was feeling that last week.
Oh, so that means 1 loss.
No, but ultimately, I'm sad to report that how I feel about a football game has no impact on the actual result.
Yeah, because otherwise we'd have won the quadruple.
We'd have won whatever, ever. Yeah. Without a shadow of a doubt. We'd have won 5 trophies when only 4 was available. That's just the way that way positivity works. Yeah, so exciting stuff. Regardless, we will be here with watch-alongs this week for you to check out, and plenty more content on Redmen Plus as well, including that amazing interview with Jamie Carragher, which I highly recommend that you go and check out. If you want more from us, then follow us over to the app. In about 20 minutes or so, we're going to be doing the Bias Football Pod. We're going to be looking at the FA Cup results. We're going to be looking back at the midweek, and we're looking ahead to the Champions League and the Premier League at the weekend, as well as having a chat about the lunacy that is Scottish football. So yeah, join us over there for that. See you soon.